Right, okay, let's just get started. I haven't seen Felix. Felix is a friend of mine. I haven't seen Felix for like 3 years.
Yeah, at least.
This guy is about 10 million times cooler than you was last time I saw him.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be a fucking weird thing for me to agree with.
We're 15 seconds into the episode and I've already offended. Okay.
10 million times cooler than anyone we're going to have on the podcast in the future.
Anybody.
As well. So we're starting off very well.
No offense to Hamish next week.
Well, you stepped away from classical.
We've stepped away from classical in the right direction, as you said before.
Exactly.
We're going in the right direction. Felix is a member of a band called the Lazy Snacks. Great name.
I love that name, actually. Yeah, that's better than Camp Hands.
Better than Camp Hands, which was an idea we had before. In reference to the way Felix is sad. Lazy Snacks, successful band. What's the journey been?
It's been weird, you know. Like there was an event that we wanted to write some music for. Turn up, we played, and we kind of just really liked playing with each other. You know,
was it the first time you played with each other?
Yeah, we were all mates already at college, and then some of us were in a big band together.
And can I also ask, you classically trained before then, like singing, right?
Yes.
So was that the first jazz that you did, like full stop with that group of people?
No, I was reading like big band charts.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it was all classical. I was doing classical trumpet, and I wasn't. Yeah, I just started doing classical singing at that point. Yeah, because I started when I was 16.
Yeah. But it's good though, because those are your two things in the band, you trumpet and singing, right? Yeah. That was you singing on the clip that we posted on the Instagram as well.
Dude's versatile.
Yeah, I know. This guy's good.
By the way, that audio you used is fucking ancient.
Oh, really? Oh, man, I picked the first one it suggested, I must admit.
Yeah, I know, it's all good. It's because we haven't released anything decent.
Band's going downhill, is it?
We've got we recorded a whole album.
Nice.
Like Christmas time.
Yeah.
And we've just been mixing it, and it just takes fucking ages.
I can imagine.
In the advertisement for this podcast, we will also be advertising your band a lot, don't you worry? And all the albums that come with it.
To our hugely jazz
heavy audience.
Yeah, perfect place to talk about it.
True.
Talk about jazz funk bands.
Yeah. I got slightly tired of Mahler's Ninth Symphony, just head right over to Lucky Star.
It's an easy transition as well.
It's a step in the right direction in history. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Felix was in National Youth Choir with me.
Yeah.
By the way, Ed hasn't met Felix at all.
No, but we spent half an hour chatting shit before this, so that's been great to just assess the vibes.
And you've just become best friends already, really.
We love it, exactly. That's what the podcast does, really, brings everyone together.
Yeah, in a very
sometimes they regret that they ever came on it, but that's fine.
Again, the best bit was when we started with Felix is a lot cooler now than he was a few years ago. I slightly regret that one now, I have to admit. Sorry.
That's what friends do, they roast each other, so it's good to see each other.
Absolutely. We haven't lost that. But yeah, we were in National Youth Choir together.
This guy was... And how was your experience?
Honestly, Felix was the lowest bass anyone has ever heard. This dude, really? He started singing and the stage sort of rumbled.
Seriously,
he just sat at the back and just sort of did his thing. No questions asked, really.
Yeah.
How does the bass? So your voice is bass, right?
Yeah, it's a lot higher than it was.
Yeah,
it's higher than it was
now.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I first hit puberty in those first couple of years, my voice just kept getting lower and lower.
Yeah.
I was like, I could get down to G1 or F#1, and then I started going away from it when I started Lazy Snacks. So it's just been singing higher and higher.
Because in a band, do you find it's quite difficult to the lower frequencies don't really carry over, or
well, they carry, but it just gets engulfed by them, because you got keys,
exactly,
you got guitar, drums are there, so you just don't want any of that. I have to take all the depth out of my voice and then sing high. I mean, I'm singing up to what was it, A4 in chest voice.
Mate, this guy's singing higher than me, and I'm tenor. No, not quite.
No, you can say that.
That's what a mixture of classical and jazz training does there, you just unlock everything.
This guy, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just been forced though. The first few years of Laser Snacks, I was just fucking every picture of me singing, there's just this fat vein down my neck.
Well, I've got I've got two veins when I sing. I've got two veins.
I've seen them from the opera photos.
Mate,
I remember seeing
We're competing for this. We're aiming for 3.
In high definition photos as well. I was this guy's crazy.
It's when the jaws kicking in, Yeah. That's when it's getting crazy.
Some horrendous pictures of me doing singing.
Is there?
Yeah, awful.
Mate, we should have used that for marketing for the podcast.
You should have. I actually sent you a decent picture.
You did. You sent me a very nice picture, actually.
I didn't. Most of them are me just taking the piss.
Really? Is that what you do on stage?
Yeah, just this face.
You like a bit of that.
I think that's probably good though, because I was going to ask what the future of you and your band is going to be like, what are you going to do in the future, and also how are you going to get jazz more promoted around the place? Do you know what I mean? Because I think doing it in a band and kind of mixing it with more pop style stuff is a great idea. Is that like what your mission is with your bandmates as well, to sort of make it accessible in that sense?
Do you know, it didn't even start, it started kind of like funk rock. That's how it really started. Like, and the fact that I played trumpet made it sound like it was a bit jazzier than it was.
So then how much of like jazz trumpet do you play in the band? Do you do much improvisation and stuff? Or is it all quite like...
Most of it's improvised.
Yeah, that's insane. That's what's so cool.
But now it's a lot more jazz heavy because I'm studying it. Zach, our keys player, he's studying it. He's always been like ridiculously good. But both of us are studying it. Our drummer's been doing production, so he's kind of been listening to all the stuff we've been doing and sending over to him. So
how do you rehearse? Like, have you got people all over the place?
Yeah, we've got people in Leeds, in Birmingham, London.
People in
Exeter.
Leeds and Birmingham.
Well, I can say individually who's where, but
I can't even get rehearsal going with 4 of us in London. But like we've got all around the country. That's impossible.
Wow. Now we've got a horn section that we take around live. They're all London based, which is nice. They live near me. I mean, they're all Trinity students. On the jazz.
Classically trained?
Well, I guess so. But they're all jazz students. So. Getting everyone in one place is tough for a rehearsal. But normally we do it so we get paid to go to a gig. I'll just take some of the budget, book a rehearsal space the day before or the day after, and just say, look, we're all going to go down to Devon or whatever, which is like lovely places to rehearse. Where the original members are all from. So there's places to stay, and then we just spend the weekend having a gig, doing some rehearsals.
When you get the money incentive, it's a different story, isn't it?
Definitely.
You know,
Mate, that's why
when they're gonna pay you in the experience, you're like, oh great, let's get some rehearsals, guys.
But it's really great exposure, guys.
Yeah, exactly. The musicians do not deserve.
Mate, that's why Total Dissonance
you got to eat.
Has become like so big, because we're making so much money from this whole. You know.
And you're paying me well to be here as well.
We've given him one Corona so far. You didn't even give him the Diet Coke. He bought that.
Exactly, 3 different types of drinks there.
I didn't have faith I was even going to get that.
He's come all the way over from the other side of London, and he didn't even think we'd give him a drink. Unbelievable. Well, we said if he does a good job, we might give him another beer.
There are many drinks. That's another type of incentive.
I probably will need another one.
We're gonna have to do it. So I was gonna say, so how do you? I mean, we've got a lot of people who listen to this who are like a younger audience.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether they're classical, jazz, whatever, how do you start a band from scratch? And get it to a point where you're kind of making money from it?
Oh, it's kind of tough, because I think I was really fortunate with the people that we landed on our feet. All of them were very good and willing to practice on their own.
Is that a big part of it? Like that solo practice?
Yeah, because if you don't have anything to bring, it's just a sound.
Yeah,
it's just a sound within more sound, and some are more important than others. Then, and that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
So everyone needs to have their own thing, and you know, the more different you become, or like different directions you go, I think the better it is, because you're bringing all of that in, and that's why it's a bit of an unusual sound that we have, is because we all study different things, and we all listen to different bands, we bring that stuff, we've transcribed different music, and
having been like classically trained like musician and then going on to jazz, like you mentioned about practicing, do you find the practice is kind of different with jazz singers? When you're improvising in a band, you're kind of practicing like your mind's ability and like the kind of reflexes that come on stage, and like setting aside anxiety in that sense. Whereas like classical practice can be like really boring. Do you know what I mean? You're literally doing what's on the page with no fluctuation at all, following any detail. But that just kind of makes you feel like you're not a musician anymore.
Yeah.
So do you find practicing jazz and like being in the band and doing work for that more interesting, like much more fun?
Oh yeah. It also engages my brain more. Like the reason why I chose not to go down a classical route was because I was naturally pretty good at it, and I was a bit shit at the jazz stuff, and that for me was actually more of an incentive to go and learn something and have someone say to me like every day, that's not good enough, go and improve it, go and listen to X, Y and Z, and which is still happening. Like I'm about to start my 3rd year, and you know, I still get feedback which is just like, it's not there. It's not there.
Yeah.
Which is
I feel like you're always going to get. I mean, even if you get to like the top of your game,
yeah,
there's always going to be a band from 30 years ago who you're being compared to.
Yeah.
You know, I was having this conversation with somebody else earlier today, and they were, you know, feeling a bit like insecure about their violin playing, for instance. And I said, like, even like your teacher, even Maxim Vengerov, who, you know, who, as we all know, is coming onto the podcast relatively soon. You know, even Maxim Vengerov is being compared to Heifetz, and being compared to Perlman. You know, it's like no matter how good you get, there's always that kind of
it's
like, oh, you could be doing that better.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I also think that's motivation. You know, I'm not someone who's really put off. I'm more of a kind of fuck you kind of thing. If someone's told me that I can't do it.
So when you say you're a fuck you kind of guy, you mean you're like a more like you've said that to me, I'm going to learn how to do it as like revenge, or do you just basically say
almost not so much revenge, more just like you don't think I can do that, and I will show you that I can do that. And I'm almost making that up in my mind when those people are telling me I can't do it, because it just fuels a fire, because I don't want to be walking on a winter's morning along the Thames path at like 7:30. Like it's fucking freezing, and I'm shaking, and I get into Trinity, and I want to press this cold piece of metal against my lips to go start practicing. Like it's not what I want to do. So you got to have, like, I figured out during my first year I need something to motivate me. Otherwise I'm good enough of a musician that I can just blag it. I
think it's partly that like the kind of fuck you attitude in both ways though, like, because you're kind of saying to them, like, if it's an interpretational thing, that's kind of what's maybe like inspired you to go and find a voice specific to your band and all of that, and just be like I'm making my own example for myself. Do you know what I mean? And so if you're going to be like comparing it to this, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like,
is there much of a precedent with your band? Like, or you guys, is what you're doing pretty unique to you?
Yeah, I think we're just kind of going. We're just making it up as we go.
It's a unique sound though. I like it. It's a really unique sound.
Oh, thanks, cool. Ed. It's good that you like it,
No, I
was about to say, would have been an awkward episode if it had been like, I'm not sure about that.
In alternate universe, I'm just trashing it. I'm like looking bro dead in the eyes. I'm like,
why are you shit?
Record James.
No, I think the reason why it sounds different is just because we're not following in the footsteps of anyone else. You know, we've got some tunes which are definitely inspired by, like, an album that we like, or whatever, because you've been listening to that at the time.
Definitely.
But then, I mean, the album we've just recorded, you just go through from the start to the finish, and every tune it feels like it's a different genre.
Wow.
But it is all the same sound because it's the same band. So it has.
So it's the sound of the link between the songs.
Yeah, well, it's the instrumentation, the voice, and the energy. I think there's another.
So when you sing in stuff that's like, let's say, slightly different genre, do you change the way you sing at all?
Yeah, I think so. Like we've got a bluesy piece, and that's like really raspy and almost a shouting at times. You know, that's just imagine, up there and lots of energy, and then
any croonery stuff. Not so much.
Not so much.
Not the vibe of a jazz funk.
That is what's kind of crazy about jazz, is like there's like so many different stages of it. You know, you've got the beat bop, swing, like blues, as you said, that like you're not really, as long as it kind of like fits somewhat into like one of those categories, it's just great mix of jazz and sort of
absolutely,
pop.
Absolutely, this thing with jazz is it's evolved faster than classical music. Classical music has had like hundreds and hundreds of years where it's evolved slowly over time. Jazz, you know, when was jazz kind of invented? It was like 1920s, was it?
Yeah, like Orleans. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so that's it. It's like in 100 years, we've got like so much variation within jazz.
I mean, you go like Charlie Parker, who's kind of taking stuff even from classical music.
Absolutely, and like Gershwin. I mean, like crossover at the beginning. Yeah,
exactly. He took. Parker took all of the Bach stuff, the chorales and fugues and things.
That's been done. I don't know if you know Keith Jarrett, but it's like one of my like absolute heroes. And the guy recorded the Goldberg variations, like, and you know, there's like that crossover there. And honestly, it was funny. You said about 10 minutes ago. So I want to go back because this really interested me. When you said you did a bit of solo practice outside of your band, and when you all come together, you sort of have the discussion of like why you're doing stuff. And actually, that's funny because that's a very classical thing to do. I think often when you're in classical string quartets, you really have that conversation. And I don't know, maybe that like naive part of me thought that wouldn't be the case with jazz. It would be more like instinctive or whatever.
Well, it's all individual, isn't it? It's all it's a different genre, but it's just your taste in music. Like we're talking as though I'm a jazz musician, but the reality is I'm someone who's interested in all genres, and I've chosen to specialize in jazz because that's how I felt I would improve the most,
right.
and be able to look at all of those other things.
That's interesting that you've kind of chosen to go down that route as like from like a self-improvement perspective.
Yeah.
Is it still the genre that you love the most, that you feel most comfortable on stage doing?
Oh no.
Really?
It's probably still up there as one of the most uncomfortable.
Really?
Despite studying it with some brilliant musicians who have stared at me going why are you bad at this?
Yeah. This is something I was going to ask, actually. I guess it's like somewhat related, about specifically performance anxiety in like classical world versus the jazz world, because obviously your venues will be a bit different, the nature of your concerts will be a little bit different, but still you're doing things that are like so different from what you've learned having been classically trained. Like you're improvising, you're getting up, you don't know what's going to happen, how you're going to feel.
That improvisation.
You know, I like classical musician, like even when you've got everything in front of you and you know what you're doing, you're still shitting it, you know? You're still like, fuck, this could go very wrong. Whereas the jazz is the same, or like, do you kind of tone it down in your mind? Like, this is quite chill, we're just having fun.
I think I was more nervous doing the classical rep like in front of people, because you know what you're meant to do, whereas if I'm improvising, even if I'm just singing something or playing something and I play something that's a bit off, I know what I've done, and it's just something different that I was expecting, and I can work with that. I can continue on that mistake, or I can
so how much of it is like true improvisation? Is it 100%, or like if you've got like themes or little motifs that you've kind of worked on a bit?
Well, there's language, you know. I transcribed a Clifford Brown solo not long ago on D-Dar, and that's like a brilliant solo. But it's over a particular set of chords, and I can take little lines from that and learn it in each key. And it's not that I'm going to play that thing. It's just something that I know, a phrase. And that's what we talk about as language, just going from A to B.
Definitely.
When you were doing classical trumpet, you would have been like focusing and honing in big time on like intonation, you know, like proper like accuracy with technique and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But like firstly, do you still think about those things in a jazz context, or has it maybe even become easier to do those things when you're not so worried about them?
It's definitely easier.
Do you know what I mean? I think there's such it's truth in life.
Definitely.
When you worry about them too much, you just end up sounding shit. Like.
Also, I'm practicing more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like though I'm not practicing as intently on the perfect sound and like my intonations being spot on, I'm playing so much more, and I'm gigging a lot more. So my muscle memory and things, just to like center a note, I don't think about that. That's easy. I mean, it's like the more you sing, the more you play, it just gets easier. So
it becomes muscle memory.
I
would say let's like go to fundamental practice. Like, how do you practice as a jazz musician?
I do the same boring warm-ups that everyone else does.
Great. You're really selling it.
Well, I know what those sound like in a classical context. You hear those trumpet players doing the same thing for hours, and you're like
jumping up. They're jumping up fifths and going back down.
Exactly. What is that?
You're the dude doing it. I mean,
so it's actually quite similar like practice techniques that classical players might do as well. Then is it just for like your own machine? Like
it's like maintenance. It's like if you go for a run and you don't stretch out beforehand, and you just like it kills.
I've never stretched before a run before in my life.
When was the last time you ran?
I ran for Macca's the other day. Like, you know when you're like, when the bus is like coming in 15 minutes, and you're like, I can quickly get my sort of nuggets before the bus comes.
No, Tom, you ran in the cricket field before they bowled you middle stump out. You got one run.
I saw that in your story.
Get one run. They get one run. It was what I would call a bad day out. That's what it was. It was. I regret it. But anyway, so can we go back to Felix, please?
Oh yeah.
We're allowed to say
that's if I've warmed up though.
Yeah. Okay.
In all honesty, a lot of days I'll just pick up and just start playing. But I always intend on doing a warm up.
Okay.
And that's just like long tones, doing the kind of gradually increasing the intervals between things.
Yeah.
A lot of trumpet playing is just psychological. Like if I'm playing every day, I've got to strengthen my embouchure to play.
Yeah.
So it's trusting that and just continuing on. The more you practice, the more you're kind of removing those psychological barriers. But and then it depends what I'm aiming to improve. Because in jazz, there's lots of things to work on. I love big band music, so I might get some charts out and just work on my phrasing and make sure my articulation's just right. And
so the phrasing of like just the sort of lead sheet, just really basic stuff.
You're really basic, but just like trying to nail it.
Yeah.
And if I haven't nailed it, I'll put my horn down. I'll come back to it. I'll do it again. And that kind of works its way to like chops as well. You got to like, if you want big band music, you've got to be able to play high.
Are you grateful for having the classical training, like, or does it not really affect you that much? Could you have started as a jazz musician and be fine, basically, or do you like sometimes look back on it and you're like, I'm glad I learned that. I'm glad I.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm here, like doing what I'm doing, is because of like what I've done. So I am happy. I don't think it had much effect. If I'd done as much practice in any other genre, it would have done the same thing, maybe in slightly like different benefits or whatever. But
did you also have to unlearn some stuff? Maybe
it was, definitely.
So actually, maybe it was like unhelpful.
You kind of have to unlearn just like the tone. You got to realign how you like. There was so much to change when I turned up.
Wow. How about singing then? How's it different with singing? Had to unlearn much there, or has the classical training been really good?
Well, I haven't had singing lessons since my classical lessons, and I haven't touched that really. I've just been slowly moving away from it,
right?
And like figuring stuff out for myself.
Yeah, which is actually quite a good way of doing it with singing. Actually, because if you're with the wrong teacher and you follow them blindly, and there really is such thing as a wrong teacher with singing, because it's such a unique instrument.
Also, if they don't understand like how your voice box looks,
this is the thing,
then like they're just going to give you the.
If you follow them blindly, you can go down some serious rabbit holes with singing.
Sure.
I know.
And we both know a lot of people who've gone down those rabbit holes from the past, from the glory days at National Youth Choir.
No, it's. I've just kind of moved away from it, and it's been really interesting. You know, like my I got a mate called Josh, and he's the drummer actually in Lazy Snacks, and we write a lot of music together. I'll send off some vocal idea, and he'll just send it back, just like, this is shit. Well, more or less, you know, just saying like, let's try again.
But are you at the comfortable stage of your like bandmates where it's so easy just to say when something's completely wank?
He's like a brother. It's truly.
It's amazing.
So I really respect and appreciate when he comes back with those comments. There's not many people I would go, oh yeah, cheers.
No, honestly, I think this is actually something that happens more in classical environments. People are so scared to like offend someone else's interpretation.
Absolutely.
That the environments are so tense. You know what I mean? You're like, someone will just play some like absolute shit, and you're like, oh, well, you could have tried this on that.
We could have.
That's not going to help.
You could play it right.
You could try getting the right notes.
Dude would not go down well in a classical quartet.
but yeah, like we're at that point where we're close enough. We've been friends for a long time, and he would just send it back. It's happened a lot of times where he's gone like, it's not right.
Yeah,
you haven't got that. Like your voice doesn't sound right on this, and I'll just do it again. And I might be a bit closer. It might still be wrong.
And like with the kind of like gift of hindsight, I guess. Do you agree with them? Like when you listen to it in the end, you're
especially like looking like 2 years back or even a year back, I'm like looking at like, oh my God.
Thank goodness I did
but
that.
Thank God before we released that. That would have been horrendous.
Maybe we need like independent arbiters of this podcast. Because in 2 years' time we're going to look back at this and think, what have we done?
That's always the way. That's always the case. It's always like,
it's that difficult first listen, isn't it?
I can't believe I did that. I can't release that.
Pre-mix, you're listening to it and you're like, what? Like, no, we've got to put this back in the drawer.
And he and I kind of, well, actually throughout his uni course, he did production in Leeds. I mean, I helped him with, don't know if I'm meant to say that I helped him with a lot of his projects.
I'd be delighted to hear you say that.
They're watching. And, you know, we wrote stuff together and I would record something, and by the end of it, he would be happy to use my part.
Yeah, really.
But at the beginning, I would just write it.
Okay.
And he would get someone else to record it.
Wow.
And that's not an insult to me. That's honesty, which means that when he has used something, it means like I've improved that much, and you know, that's an opinion I respect.
From being in a band, have you gained quite a lot of good understanding about technology, and like do you use it, like programs like Logic, for example, and stuff? Because that's another good thing that classical musicians like completely forget about.
We don't have to do that.
Like you might record yourself on a phone that's like 10 years old or something, and it just sounds awful.
No, I don't know. My phone makes me sound quite good actually. Well, but then I listen to myself like on a good camera, and I sort of think, why am I doing this?
Especially the good ones that reveal too much.
Exactly.
We do a lot. I mean, Josh and I were actually planning on running a studio after I've finished uni. That's our ambition.
Have you got a lot of gear already, or
we have a fair amount of gear, but it will be a process to get there. We've got other projects, you know, which would gradually fund it. So it's not out of the question, but it's still a little ways away because it's really expensive for,
I can imagine.
investing in that kind of thing.
I imagine the room is like the hardest thing to find, no?
And then if you want a nice mixing desk, it might set you back.
Like a mortgage.
As we know, mortgages are quite high at the moment.
But that's so I'm also interested in it. I like that kind of thing. So we have to use it on stage all the time. So an understanding of equipment is almost essential.
Yeah, it's important, exactly.
And for reference, Felix, before we came in here, knew more about this mic than I did.
Yeah,
I said, I think this is a condenser mic, and Felix like, yes, it is.
We were like, the guy at Selfridges says it was good. What he didn't tell us is that we need 3 different computers when we have 3 people. We have 3 people on the podcast.
That's why, like, to my right, I'm looking at 3 MacBooks.
Look at that old wall.
And
the full setup.
The walk here was a bit posh, and then I walk into your flat, and oh god.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
What a place to be.
Yeah, I thought you were using those coasters.
Exactly. For the dinner plate, for the caviar after the recording.
Yeah,
that's what we usually have. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Worth the trip.
Get ready for that. Absolutely. I was going to say something. I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's not podcast etiquette, Tom.
Talking about caviar. I'm just salivating now.
Yeah.
Should we call it? No. Would have been one of the better ends of the episodes that we've had. One of the better ends of the episodes that we've had. No, I was gonna ask about where you record as a band. Like you say, so with the basically the bit of money that you get for gigs, you book a place to rehearse.
Yeah.
Is a lot of your recording that you've done recently like been live from shows, or have you actually managed to get into a studio?
Well, seeing as Josh was up in Leeds, we went to those studios there. So the Conservatoire
Is it the Leeds Conservatoire?
Yeah, they've got some really nice studios, and he had access to them. We didn't have to pay to use them.
Yeah.
So saved us a lot of money. So it costs you so much to book out a nice studio.
Yeah.
We just don't have the budget for that.
No, sure.
So we went up to Leeds, recorded there. So actually we played a gig, Hyde Park Book Club, and then went over, did the recordings the next day after like a couple of hours sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
and then we went back up and did a few more. But also we record. Josh and I actually built like a rehearsal space.
Wow.
That we can record in.
Whereabouts?
That's just it. It's like parents' house.
It's parents. Yeah.
It was like a brick shed.
Okay.
And we just like ripped everything out and just lined it up with nice equipment and soundproofing.
Yeah.
It is like a huge sacrifice though. When you endeavour into going and like doing band stuff, you're looking at equipment, a lot of time spent, all sorts of travel and everything like that. And you wonder, did you have that feeling at the beginning, like whether you would like make the money back to have it feel worthwhile? Because your page is quite big now, and I no doubt get reached out to quite a lot. But
I mean, we never really did it for any money. We just liked the idea of playing at festivals. We all enjoyed going. Well, a good chunk of us just liked going to festivals.
Yeah,
and then.
But that's how the best things
you
start.
just had that like really like super childish thought of like, oh, I wish I was up there. Did you?
Yeah.
Is that kind of it?
Not even
really.
that.
Okay.
Just like we've got this project. We put it together for an event that we got asked if we wanted to play at.
Yeah.
We put the band together, wrote a couple of tunes, and went and played, and it went really well. And we were like, oh, we should do some more of this.
Okay.
I'd love to go and play at some of these festivals.
Yeah.
And we just kind of did.
Yeah.
we apply. Or you get reached out
eventually. Always the best things like start with just your like basic want to do that. Like Tom and I, we just like the sound of our own voices, so we thought podcast. That works perfectly for us.
Sometimes I record myself speaking in my own time and listen to it as I go to sleep.
Voice numbers
really sends me off.
Exactly.
I feel like most people.
You're not that boring, don't worry.
Yeah, most people are using this podcast as sort of ASMR, like night. We put it on. Just
part
British
ASMR.
Yeah, exactly.
The next use of the mic.
It's a real hit in the States.
That might be your target audience now. You should just go for it.
It's pretty. I was looking through the sort of analytics or whatever for our episode, or for like one of our old episodes, and it tells you where people like are listening from.
Was this on Spotify?
Spotify podcasts, and it's like you've got 20% of your audience from Argentina. It's like we've got just quick shout out to the fans in Argentina, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Without them, we wouldn't be here.
I think I was someone British on holiday in Argentina, without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I think go back to like one of the first things you said though about luck, about how things fell into the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the case with all musicians. I remember at my old school we had a talk from John Rutter. I don't know if you guys know John Rutter. Amazing, cool conductor and composer, especially. Does a lot of Christmas music. And he came and spoke, and we sort of said like, he said all of it really is about luck. And he just became very close friends with a chap called David Wilcox, who was running the choir at King Cambridge and happened to want to record like loads of Christmas music, and therefore, as a friend, he asked John Rutter if he'd write a few pieces, and John Rutter basically became like the face of Christmas carols really now. Like he's huge.
Yeah.
And like that never would have happened without that just sort of friendship. Yeah. So I get you say luck, but maybe you could just go simply to just being a decent person.
Yeah, it's like what's they say? It's like luck's opportunity and hard work or something like that.
Is it something like some phrase like that?
This phrase like that.
You say they say I've never heard that before.
These guys are the lucky snacks. Just listen.
The lucky snacks.
Lucky snacks. Yeah, it's coming their way. Success is coming their way.
Kick off. Yeah,
that'd be nice. Pay some bills. Just paid off my rent today. So
good man.
That's why I looked like I was crying when I came in.
It's like cutting off your limb, is it? You know? Oh man,
he's walked all the way from Trinity.
That coke's my overdrive.
yeah. Oh shit, I know.
We'll have to give him another Diet Coke for the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So when's your next gig?
I think we got one in Notting Hill.
Okay.
That'll be like early October, I imagine.
That's upmarket.
Yeah.
Notting Hill.
Yeah, the Arts Club or whatever it is.
Okay.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
They've been really nice. We've been talking back and forth. They were keen to have us. Yeah, like end of the summer, it tends to like trail off a little bit because you know we're all at uni. We've been kind of a festival band, but we're kind of stepping away from that, doing a couple of our own events. So that would be our own event as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys change your vibe if you're doing something like some arts club thing compared to like a chill festival, or are you very consistent with the way that you are on stage and stuff?
It's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually did a couple of weddings before, which to any originals band out there, don't do it.
Is it really?
It's an absolute roast.
Oh, is it?
I
think you must be the only good musician that's ever done a wedding, because I must admit no weddings ever have good musicians.
Yeah.
Right. Oh no, am I going to get cancelled for saying? Do you know what I mean though? It's like you know when you hear like the classical sopranos sing Ave Maria, it never happens to be like the
I know
it's never
the real deal.
Maria Callas doing it.
You know exactly.
So it must be the first like good band to ever.
But we're also not the right band. So like we just learned a bunch of covers.
Yeah.
Which we're not a covers band.
No.
And so we put our own twist on them because that's how we think we're creatives.
Yeah.
We're not people that just like churning out music.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, let's do this and this.
Yeah.
And let's change the feel of this and then suddenly we're playing Superstition.
Yeah.
But the most fucking like it's cool. We found it like brilliant.
Yeah.
You can see a couple of people in the audience going, "This isn't Superstition."
I mean, surely if you're a cover artist, you must feel a bit like a scam artist at points. If you're not changing that much.
So did you have to like find ways of like changing what your band does in order to get more gigs and stuff? But things
It's because we were just like.
No, it's just hard to do it.
We
might as well. They
went to us like, "Do you want this much for a wedding gig?"
Yeah.
And you look at the fee and you're like, "Wow."
Well, yeah, but that's the thing with weddings.
That rate tab gonna pay itself.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would listen to Superstition with a crazy jazz trumpet solo. Over the top. That's all I'm about.
I'm not gonna lie, it's one of our best arrangements.
Have you recorded it?
There's got to be like an audio, like a phone recording, I think. But we haven't got it down or anything.
Yeah.
We have done some like live studio videos recently.
Okay.
We're starting to release those. Did one the other day.
Yeah.
Thundercat Them Changes. That was cool. That's a cool arrangement.
Okay.
We do like arranging covered.
Yeah, and when you say arranging covers, is it one person who arranges them, or like you all kind of collectively do it?
We'll learn the tune.
Yeah.
We'll turn up to a rehearsal.
And you'll just
we'll play for it, and then we'll go, nah. And then we'll just change it.
Let's try something else.
Yeah, and it just gets more and more hectic as the rehearsal goes because people are just throwing stuff and seeing what sticks.
Okay.
But it's a lovely environment. It's one of my it's
trial and error. I mean, that's
exactly, and it's such a vulnerable thing to just go like, let's do this. We're really excited about it, and for everyone to respect that and give it a go. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't,
okay. Well, I'll ask you something like more kind of general. Then, is there such thing as something that's wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you tell it if it's wrong?
It's just wrong to the individual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like, if I'm listening to, I don't know.
That's such interesting. Yeah.
What's some really avant-garde jazz stuff? trying to think.
You're talking to the two wrong people.
I just got off listening to some medieval music.
But there's some like really hectic stuff, and I might talk to someone and go, yeah, that is it, that's amazing, it's energy or whatever, and I can listen to it and go, oh, that is terrible, and that to me is like, that's wrong, that's like but maybe wrong isn't the right word, but,
but I think that's so interesting because you're saying it's like wrong for the person and whose personality of like who's performing it. Because you could, someone else in like alternate universe could do that and nail it, but if you're slightly nervous about it, the vibe is.
But surely you're not arguing it's wrong.
I guess not then, but no.
Because I was forced into Stevie Wonder.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
That sounds traumatic. I don't know how that happened, but
yeah. Well, it was an ex-partner of mine really liked it, and I was like, I've got to like, give it a go. And I must admit, first listen, I was just like, this just doesn't make sense to me.
Really?
And now I love it. Like I'm like, and like his Inner Visions album, which is like was kind of experiment. Well, not kind of experiment. It was super experimental. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it is a
it's
brilliant
an unbelievable album.
Yeah.
But like 6 months ago, I was listening and like nodding and smiling and being like, oh, it's just, I love this guy, But this is the thing, is like, your taste can change so quickly.
Yeah. I guess like the whole wrong thing is, if I went to a teacher and played something, how I think it should be played, or a previous teacher's told me to play it, they can go like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's because to them, that's not how they would do it, or that's not what they hear.
And I'd say the classical equivalent to that is composing, right? If you go have a composition lesson, like how could a teacher tell you, oh, you can't do that, that's wrong?
Yeah.
It's like, well, actually, it's not wrong if it's like a form of language.
Yeah. It's like the old parallel fifths thing that you guys have to deal with.
Parallel fifth, man. I haven't.
Bro, my bar chorales look like Debussy, honestly. There was nothing right about that in any sense.
I can't remember whose it was, but there was somebody asked me to check their chorale over, and I played it out on the piano for them, and they just, in fairness, they said, they were like, yeah, it's not right, is it? I was like, no.
I love how you can remember exactly who it was, but it just knows it on a podcast right now.
You can say
There's no comment. I'm not paid enough to. It'll be released on our Patreon at the end of the episode.
Actually, for subscribers only.
For subscribers only for like $49.99 a month.
I reckon you record it, send it to them, say, I won't publish this.
No, because because this dude behind the camera will sell that or something. This guy's got clips of us saying some
He's got a whole hard drive in his backpack. He just goes home every day with footage that can get us in prison.
He is not losing his job. That is a permanent placement.
His pay is going up every time.
Giggling away over there.
Right, it's true.
Literally, like forking it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, do all of you then in the band kind of do all the production stuff, or is there one guy who sort of specialises?
Now is really just Josh.
Now just Josh, okay.
Because he's so much better than the rest
and
of
how
us.
much of like production is, because I'm sure if you were really into production, you'd be able to tell just by the way it's produced who's done it.
There's an element of that. I mean,
okay.
Production, there's personal touches you can do, but a lot of it is just understanding where are things clashing, what can I do to solve that. Something like a band recording, though you're putting effects on things, you're putting an echo on something, and you're messing around with stuff. The reality is you're trying to get as best of a take, and if you're working with great musicians, you don't really have to do much to it, and a good producer will be able to make that sound how it should sound.
Absolutely.
And that's why we get Josh to do it, because he knows how to do it, and then he can put something creative on it, like his own
well,
touch.
there's often like with jazz albums, I listen to a lot of like Ella Fitzgerald, like croonery vibes, right? When you're feeling like a rainy day, and often on her albums it's like take 5 or something. Or like, thanks.
You're right, mate.
I'm okay. Take 5 or like take 7 or something. And like it was like specify that. And I think there's something like beautiful knowing that you're listening to one take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess that is often the beauty of jazz, is that like a lot of it is because it's so improvised.
Yeah, you can't really.
It must be difficult to splice it up.
You can't really make edits to it. Because going back to that language thing, if you and I have listened to the same album and we've learnt the same phrase, and I start playing it, and you're playing like drums, you'll start joining in the phrase.
Right.
You'll finish the phrase off with me. So you can't do anything with that. You have to. It has to be the original take, and that's the same. That's the same with my band. It's like we'll go and do a gig, and some gigs it will just feel unbelievable, because we'll have these little phrases that we all know, and I'll play something in a solo, or Zach will play something, and then suddenly the whole band's just picked up and then just landed because they all know the phrase.
Yeah, and that's come from hard work. That's come from practice.
Yeah, and individual practice. And then playing the music together, understanding it, and being influenced by each other. I listen to Zach's soloing, and then I go and do my own solo. Yeah. I'm taking his phrases because he's infinitely better than me. But it makes sense, I'm going to take that, and he'll give a look over to me when he knows that's what I've done. All right.
Speaking of influence, and also like jazz musicians as well, from the past, have you taken inspiration or influence from any of the players, like the ones that we might know, like Coltrane, people like that, from many different eras? You know what I mean? Has anyone that you've looked at that's helped you find a certain flow that you go with most of the time when you improvise, and that your band joins in with sometimes, or do you kind of just do what feels true to yourself?
There's a couple of things that I think about with that. Is the feel. I would think like an entire band, like if I was going to influence the band with something, it would be the feel of something, because there's not much I can do as a trumpet player to shift everyone unless I'm doing something really specific. So I don't know, a few of us listened to Nubian Twist. They're a band that started up in Leeds, really good, and we just love a couple of their albums, and we've all listened to it. So if I start playing something in that kind of feel, then that will influence them. But then my own personal playing, I listen to a lot of Clifford Brown. And
so you're going away, listening to what you listen to. When you come back, though, it's always influencing each other in the ways that people don't even realise.
You don't realise. Only as we've gotten a bit older and realise what's going on, have we noticed, that is what we're doing. We are playing the same.
Do you ever have that conversation after you've played something where you're like, oh, did you do that bit there?
Or well, not in the sense it's less formal.
No, but it's like a feeling of something else.
Bar 32. No, we didn't know it.
I know I've heard that before.
He's been in Chelsea for 45 minutes. It's beginning to sound like a...
No, it has that effect on you, mate. Trust me. I'm getting worse and worse.
If we're on stage and something like that happens, there will be an immediate response of just yes, that's an amazing feeling.
And you can feel that through the way everybody else plays.
Yeah.
And have you ever had a point in your band where you've gotten to a mutual writer's block, where it's where the fuck do we go next? What's the next song going to be about? What's it going to feel like? And you can't really
Lockdown was a bit like that.
Well, Lockdown,
that one you put on the post, that was the Lockdown tune.
Okay.
We did that all
pretty good for Lockdown.
We all did that remotely, so we just recorded our parts and then sent them.
It's amazing to keep it going in a time when you're so demotivated generally, though.
So the amount of terrible posts put on, just because you've had to find something to
keep chunk out content.
So you just be a picture from a gig a year and a half ago. That's
what we were doing.
Did Josh not tell you that's going to be a really bad idea? You still followed through.
We just throw back to that. Lockdown was actually really frustrating because we had just built up a bit of momentum and we were getting invited to some events. But I think in hindsight, we're all so much better as musicians now. That it probably wasn't that bad. At the time, it felt awful, and we've only just kind of built that momentum back up. It was a bit of an uphill battle when we came back. Plus, less people were going out to things.
Well, the thing is, people got less used to going out of concerts, and therefore people just simply changed their behavioural kind of way of enjoying themselves. People would go out more for food after lockdown. And I remember there were so many articles in the papers when we were coming out of it saying would classical music ever fully recover from it?
Do you reckon it has?
Yeah, actually, I do, but only because I think the world has changed for it. So, the Metropolitan Opera, the Royal Opera House, they now have streaming services where you can literally log on and listen to any of their operas, watch the footage, and it's all professionally done. And I think that stuff really kicked off over COVID, and actually that brought it... So although we might have lost some audience, that brought it to a new audience of people who might then not have been able to afford to go to the Metropolitan Opera. Or who live in,
but even,
Europe and want to watch a New York production.
But even, this year, there was a, poll done by Our Hall or some newspaper or something, and more people are interested, more people want to go and see live classical music than they did in previous years, and not just over the pandemic, because that was literally impossible, but even before then, so it's going in the right direction, but I don't know exactly how either. Maybe you're right, because
it's impossible to say whether something's recovered when it's gone down a completely different path.
But just different now.
We're in a different place.
It's not so much you need to recover, it's just think on your feet.
Definitely.
Do some other stuff. You're doing this.
doing this. Step in the right direction for classical music.
We're pushing people further away.
Yeah, we are. You're backing up the classical, and I really respect that.
Yeah, and jazz now. We're segueing into the jazz world now.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Real specialists. We like to consider ourselves.
Oh yeah.
I had to search Coltrane beforehand.
I was on ChatGPT. Good questions for a jazz musician. Thinking
Do
for
you
myself.
have friends?
Exactly.
Well, I feel like we should probably wrap up fairly soon, but I'd like to, maybe this is just like interest perspective, like let's just get, and we're going to put you on the spot here, your 3 favourite tunes, maybe that you've done or that like other people have done. Let's just hear like you kind of just have a crack at this. I know it's an impossible question, man.
Like in a genre or any
just
genre?
Go for it. I mean, look, you're probably going to have changed your mind by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'll actually hate. Like, I'll watch back your clip and just go like, why did I say that?
Yeah, exactly. You're listening to it at the same time. You're like,
well, already in our first episode, we said our 3 favourite pieces, and honestly, I already feel like mine have changed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go, seeing as I mentioned the Nubian Twist, Workhouse.
Okay.
That's a brilliant tune. The horn lines are fantastic.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a Barry player there that's just really good. The tone's brilliant. The mixing's great. Mm-hmm. I should probably mention something jazz.
Yeah.
You know, just in case there's a lecturer.
One of your teachers is like, oh, I see what Felix is up to these days.
I'm going to go like the Chet Baker It Could Happen to You recording. Okay. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really difficult.
I know. We'll while you're thinking about it, we'll say like we'll add these over. So like over the episode, we'll try and get like the tunes of these and like put them over the top so people can have a listen.
But can I ask you 2 more questions as well? And this is going to be because I'll make a poster advertising it and a few interests of Felix's. Okay, so because it's a classical podcast generally, who is your favourite? Classical composers, but an underrated one that you think is underrated. So this is to avoid Bach, Beethoven.
I think they're all overrated.
Yeah. Here we go.
This question's going to drag us on until
Yeah.
What would you say?
It's funny we were talking about I think that Haydn stuff's really decent.
You think Haydn's good?
I love that you kind of said that actually, because that's controversy.
Get off the podcast. Right, we're calling it there now. Are we? No.
And what about any hobbies that you have outside of music or jazz or anything like that?
I like going to the gym, lifting weights.
Okay.
You know,
that's standard.
It's good for the
me too.
It's just so wham. This guy, I
haven't trained like for a good couple of months.
Really?
I just took a break.
Yeah.
Needed it.
I think your body needed it.
Yeah, I think mentally I needed it.
Okay.
I was just drained.
Yeah.
It's like all the music stuff. Why do we do it?
Yeah. But I'm using so emotionally drained. There's no point physically draining yourself as well if you're feeling so emotionally drained. Like, you're just gonna like run yourself into a pit.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah. I was just questioning. I think everyone should question why they do music. You know, I was at that point where I was like,
you're okay, man. We can talk about it more if you want.
It's not in a deep sense. Just like it's you enjoy the end result, but the process to get there is so tiring. You know, you've got so much to do, and there's so much negativity around it.
Yeah.
And then even like you talk to someone and they're like, "Oh, so what do you do?" You're like, "Oh, I'm a musician."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, so you do this?" Like, no, that's how I make my money. Like, it's just a bit.
Obviously, it's been hugely romanticised, like the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was A.A. Milne famously said, like, what do you prefer more, like the journey or the conclusion? And somebody was like, oh, well, obviously the journey, right? Yeah. And A.A. Milne said, no, it's the company. Yeah. And that's like a really cliche way of doing it, but actually, if you're just enjoying, like, playing with your band.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of place I'm at the moment. Yeah. Just enjoying.
And that's why you're probably making the best
films
music
like
now.
La La Land, don't you? And this guy's like meant to be loving life on like nothing at all. Yeah. But it's just about following a passion, isn't it?
You know, he definitely wanted to go out with Emma Stone in the end as well. Like, you know, when they like nodded to each other.
He stared right at her when he was like playing that piece.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a happy ending. It's not. Every bloke knows.
Yeah. Well, it's Emma Stone.
This guy wanted to be with Emma Stone. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Understandable. Yeah. Well, should we round up there then?
Let's wrap up.
I think it's been like such a pleasure to have Felix.
Oh, mate. It's been lovely.
It's been so amazing.
And like, honestly, like we genuinely love like your band. It's crazy. Like you were the first name I said to Ed when we were thinking about guests. Yeah. It was like, I know this guy Felix, and he's just been on a heck of a journey. Oh. You know, from like National Youth Choir to like jazz trumpet to, you know, doing everything along the way.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
And to hear why you do that. just really fantastic.
Really, really awesome. Yeah, and we have to come on at some point again when you progress even further.
Yeah.
And
I might go afford the train fare. That'd be nice.
We'll pay the train fed both ways. How about that? Yeah. Let's,
pleasure.
Hit the big leagues. All right then. Yeah, it's been great fun.
Brilliant.
And we'll see you soon.
Perfect. See you in a bit.